This is Let's Talk Radical Radio, getting to the root causes of the important issues of the day. This on-the-air community forum believes your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492 or tweet us at Let's Talk on KWMR.
And your hosts today are Robin Carpenter leading our conversation, Mary Frank answering the phones, and I'm Paul Raffaele.
And when you call in and hear the phone ringing, please hang on. When you hear me say you're on the air, please give us your first name, turn down your radio, and please watch your language.
And today we're talking about pets, or our animal companions, is however you may prefer to call them. And we want to know about how you connect to animals. What is the nature of your connection to any animals in your life? Do you have a pet? Why is the death of a pet often more grief-filled and devastating than the death of a human we love? How have animals played a part in your childhood or your current life? Please call in at 415-663-8492 and let us know about your experiences of pets in your life. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this show today, and I'm hoping others will call in, is my husband and I have 3 kitty cats. We're cat folks. And our youngest, we had to put her down about 2 weeks ago, and it was very unexpected. She seemed to not be feeling well, took her to the vet, and by 24 hours later, she was very, very, very ill and looked like she had massive cancer and all kinds of things. So it was a big shock. And fortunately, we have great vets in our area. We've got Dr. Mary here in Point Reyes, and we've got Dr. Kelly over right next to us in Lagunitas. And so Dr. Kelly provided a beautiful sacred space for us to be able to have Ozza put to sleep, and held a space for us to cry and be pretty darn sad. And it was, Andy and I are, 2 sane, normal, logical people, but we sobbed like babies for 2 days. We just holed up at the house. I threw my back out helping Andy dig like a 20-foot deep grave. And where we've buried her, it's turned into like this giant labyrinth with rocks and things. And we went and bought pea gravel, and, we really, grieved pretty hard about that. And, the last time I actually had cats, there was like a 12-year gap between getting another one, because when I lost my cat Ripper many years ago, I don't want to ever get attached again to something like this. I don't ever want to go through that grief again. I don't want to love something that's not going to live longer than me. And so I'm just really interested in what other people have had happen with them. What kinds of pets have they had? How do they handle it? I mean, I know when my son was little, we had a Chinese water dragon, we had a ball python snake, and we had hamsters. We sort of had a food cycle, because the baby hamsters were what I fed to the water dragon and the
What's a water dragon?
It's a really beautiful lizard. It's like a lime green with these bright robin's egg blue spots on it. One time we couldn't find it. Luis was like, Mom, China's not in her cage. I can't find her. And we looked, and I said, well, you haven't been out of your bed. your bedroom door's been closed. So we went in his bedroom and we looked. And Luis had shelves with baskets. All of his toys were in baskets because I was not a control freak mother.
Sure.
I had labels on each
I
basket,
believe
what
you.
toys go in it. But so all of a sudden I noticed something's off in the big basket that had all of Luis's life size, not life size, but these big, large, very beautiful from the California Academy of Sciences dinosaurs. And there was China. She was just standing still, looking at us like,
Perfect.
don't notice me. And she
Yeah.
was in with the dinosaurs.
You can't see me.
You can't see me. And we did
That
it.
was like E.T.
It took us 20 minutes to find her. She was just sitting still. I'm with my kin.
Leave me alone.
But you know-
so I've never had a lizard as a pet, I have to say.
I will never have a lizard as a pet. Yeah, I'm scared of them. But the connection between animals and people is an ancient thing. It's gone on for thousands of years. And it's one of the most fundamental bonds that human beings experience, as the cave paintings in, how do I pronounce it? I think it's Lascaux, France, thousands of years old, showed how there was that kind of sacred interaction. And I think it's a mutually beneficial bond, and it continues today. It's more of that connection, that special connection, that nonverbal connection that is like no other. And I think people experience unconditional love with their pets. And that is something that makes that bond very, they're going to love you no matter what. And we don't get that often in
Well,
life.
so, yes, apparently pet ownership is at its highest levels ever in America, at least. Total pet spend is over $60 billion a year in America alone. Wow. They've migrated into the house, into the bedroom, from sleeping outside. Leave the dog outside. No, nobody leaves the dog outside anymore. Or the cat. Well, the cat. Yeah, they let the cats out.
And they eat the birds.
Eat the bird. A pet's love is not a function of our success. They have unconditional love. Do you think that's...
I think it's absolutely true.
I think that's
Even cats?
the cat. Well, it depends on your cats. And,
Even lizards?
and since I know my other two cats aren't listening, one of the things that was so devastating about losing this little one was that she was very dog-like. She came when you called her.
Yeah.
You could say, Ozza, lie down, and she would lie down. The other cats are like, forget
yeah?
you, screw you. I'm not doing what you say.
Who do you think you are?
And that was one of the things that was so lovely about her, was she was very, she was not cat-like in the sort of snarky way that cats can be. But then that's so charming in its own way, I guess. And I think for me, a friend of mine asked me, my dad had always wanted me to get a dog because I was always out fly fishing in the woods by myself. And because for so many years when I was single, I would just go do those things by myself. And my dad had always said, I wish you would get, a nice big dog to go with you. And I said, I don't want a dog because dogs look at you like with such adoration, and I would
That's
feel
what I like about them.
and I would feel such pressure to return that, and I'm not gonna.
You've got to be godlike or something. Right?
Yeah, I always felt like a dog would be like having a child, and the responsibility. Where cats are sort of like, if you die, you do know I will eat you.
Well, dogs are that way too.
Probably,
If
yeah.
you die and you're lying in your house for a while and the pets are inside, guess what's for dinner, right?
Now, why don't some of you call in
Yes, what?
to stop us?
415-663-8492 or 8317. Give them both. Give them both a try.
A growing body of research into the human-animal connection shows us that the benefits aren't just emotional. They also boost immunity. And, immunity to infections, and they help with mental health disorders.
How does that work? Because
So-
they're always
I actually have
full
some
of germs
studies
themselves.
that were done. So
become-
there are actual medical studies that have been done. Pardon me. That pet owners have a higher 1-year survival rate following a heart attack. Pet ownership also lowers blood pressure in response to mental stress. So if your blood pressure's you have a health issue causing the high blood pressure. But if you're having high blood pressure from stress, that animals and the presence of animals lowers your blood pressure, stress-related blood pressure. And they also believe that pet ownership, and particularly dog ownership, is reasonable for reduction in cardiovascular disease risk.
And because it affects brain chemistry, Paul.
Huh.
That connection and that bond affects brain chemistry, and that's why you have those results. And, pets give people a loving companion to care for. They encourage touch, conversation, and often laughter. My dog had a sense of humor. He was actually the best husband I ever had. He was hilarious, loyal, true, loving, and it was quite an incredible relationship I had with dear Max.
Can all husbands be replaced by a good Dalmatian? That's
That's the question.
It's interesting. My cousin runs some hospice centers in Pensacola, Florida, and they have frequently had service dogs or dogs come in to visit for the day and visit with folks, and or folks that are there at the hospice center are allowed to have their pets come and visit, and that's very, very helpful. And Angela has said how she has seen when someone's dog, that frequently someone will wait to leave until they're with their dog or on the bed with them, or there's this comforting sort of presence that they provide.
Well, I have to say, I haven't had a dog since I was a child, and he died when I was probably 10 years old, and I remember burying him in the backyard, that kind of thing. Had a cat that, again, as with one of your cats, acted like a dog, would fetch. I'd throw things out the window. It would leap out the window and bring this thing back in. And anyway, I got run over in Chileno Valley. And did I? Yes, I grieved a little bit about that. And I put him up on a rock on the top of the ridge so the vultures could have a go at him. Yeah. Yes, grieving for the loss of a pet is a big thing. Here's the mechanisms. There's a little article I have here. Mechanisms for coping with pet loss are sparse. While we have spiritual, ritualistic, and secular ways of coping with human death, most of these don't fully extend to our animal friends. Most religions don't address pet loss. Don't usually have funerals for pets, although you obviously...
Andy and I just went to town.
And, so, my... partner has a dog and a cat, and I have to say, I haven't been around a dog for a long time, but I actually miss the dog when it's not at my place.
Well, I think that pets have this, because I was thinking about, Andy and I were talking about, at some point the other two, or they're getting older, they're 14 and 13, that how empty our house would feel without any pets. So that they bring this presence and this life force into your life, and that that it would, because we talked about, well, when they go, we probably won't get another pet because we're hoping we'll be traveling more and that kind of thing, and then I said, but I can't imagine. Mine and Andy's dynamic is so tied in with, feeding the cats, playing with the cats.
Right.
The cats climbing, they love to climb all over Andy, and I always get a cat on my lap after they've fought for his lap, and then I get the loser. But, so there's this dynamic in our relationship that we have that's, with the cats. And like if one cat's been bothering, it's almost like children. One cat's been bugging Andy all day up in his office, he'll banish them downstairs to me. Banishment you have to come to me for affection. So, because I'm not as good at it as Andy. But yeah, it's an interesting thing too, that little life force.
So dogs and cats, not so much, but dogs and I'm saying caged birds and all the other caged animals that people have, or aquarium fish, whatever, are dependent on you.
Yeah.
And that's a part of the bond, I guess. It's they can't survive without you, so you have to have this sort of ritual every day. You have to have the habitual thing of, it's time to walk the dog or feed the dog or feed the rabbit or whatever. Yes, it's interesting. I don't know. Of course, I don't need a pet now because Sally has the cat and the dog. Let's Talk. This is Let's Talk. Hosts Robin Carpenter, Mary Frank. I'm Paul Raffel. Please call us on 415-663-8492 or 8317 and tell us all about your relationship with pets, how you've dealt with grieving for the loss of a pet. It's something very real, I'd say, and yes.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about the not having, because I know when my son was growing up, I did not want to have, well, after my cat Ripper died, I did want to have another cat. Luis wanted a dog, and I knew as a single mom with a really tough job, that I was not going to be able to take care of a dog and my son very well. So, that's when I came up with the idea of like the pet snake, the pet lizard, the pet hamsters, which actually I ended up caring for and liking much more than he did. But as each one passed, we did for when China died, Luis wanted a Viking funeral for her. So we dug a hole in the yard, filled it with water, and we made out of balsa wood this little boat, and we put China on there and put lighter fluid on her and let her go that
Barbecue.
way. That was what he wanted. And then with our snake, when she died, I actually took her to a taxidermist so I could have her skin
Oh, boy.
and had it dried.
Oy.
So
Only Robin would do that.
Oh, have the skin, right? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
You didn't stuff it. And
Oh
put it
no,
on the
no,
wall.
I didn't. Oh
Hang
my
it on
gosh,
the wall.
I have the best. You just reminded me of this story. So when I was in Birmingham, I was working at a crazy radio station there, kind of like here, and so at the station, one of the gals that she was our bookkeeper. Her husband Jim had this dog Diablo, who was a big black sort of mutt dog, and Jim adored Diablo. Diablo slept. Lynn used to complain. Diablo slept in the bed with him. Diablo did everything with him. Diablo sat and had his dinner at the table
Oh, dear.
when they did.
No.
Oh, my
So
God.
one day we all go. There were a group of us that would go to lunch once a week. We go to lunch, and Lynn has been looking kind of upset and strange all week, and I said, Lynn, are you okay? And she looked at me and she said, no, it's Jim. I was like, he's sleeping with somebody else? No. And we started guessing, he was embezzling at work. He lost his job. No, it's too horrible. It's too weird. I can't tell you guys. And it's like he's trying to make you do something in the bedroom you don't want. No. And then she goes, it's Diablo. We go, he's trying to make you do it with Diablo. And she's like, no. Diablo's dead. And we went, oh, well, we're really sorry. She goes, no, that's not what's wrong. Jim took him to the taxidermist and had him stuffed and has him made little ball rolling things on each of his paws, so he
Like
rolls
to
him
roll him
around.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh.
And we have to pretend Diablo's alive.
Oh, my God.
And Jim's takes him out to get the paper and puts the paper in his mouth, and so Jim is doing this whole thing.
That's
and she goes,
insane.
and he said that they were having a party the following week. She said, for the party we have to pretend Diablo's alive, and I don't know what to do. So I swear on a
This
stack of
radio
Bibles,
drama was brought to you by Robin Carpenter.
we had to go to that party, and Jim would move Diablo around the room in different spots, and we
Oh,
all
man.
had to pretend Diablo was alive. That went on for months.
So
That's
weird.
a bit weird. Well, there's an interesting point here that domestic dogs, as many of us know, are descended from wolves. So that dogs remain wolves in the biological essentials, including their social behavior. Wolf packs have some intriguing parallels with human families. They're territorial. They hunt cooperatively. Pack members are emotionally bonded to greet each other enthusiastically after they've been separated. And we see them as family members, just going back to what you were saying, Robin. I mean, they literally are a member of the family. But they're also extraordinarily attentive and this was certainly true in Max's case, my precious Max, they have an uncanny ability to predict my will, my mood, my everything. I know that when I separated from that long and arduous relationship, I was going to work one day, and there was a space in between the front seats that Max would sit there, and I was really at the bottom of the bottom, and I was sniffling on my way to work, and I looked at Max almost as pathetic as the stuffed dog. I said, Max, you're going to have to get all my love because I have nobody else to love. And he looked at me, and he put his head on my shoulder for the rest of the ride to commute to work. I mean, they read you. They really read you. And it's a special kind of read because it's non-judgmental read. It's a loving read, an unconditional loving read that humans long for. And I think that's one of the reasons we feel that way as well.
And sometimes cats. I should have listened to Ripper when my ex-husband, at the time, my I had just gotten engaged to him, and I decided to take Ripper over to his flat in the marina to spend the weekend with us. And he proceeded to go into Luis's closet and pee in one shoe of like 6 pairs of shoes, but he would leave one shoe good and pee in the other one. And Lou was he was quite the dandy, and he was into very expensive
boy.
shoes. And so basically he ruined 6 pairs of probably $200 or $300 shoes.
Wow.
But I loved that he left one untouched and one peed in, one untouched, one it was.
And you failed to heed the warning.
And he was trying to tell me.
There you are. So, yes, we got an email from Murray Seward. Good old Murray. And he found this article about why it's often harder to cope with the loss of a beloved animal than the loss of a human family member or friend. And he says he's not much of a pet person. He had a dog when he was a kid. The key to a meaningful relationship is cognitive, specifically using words to share experiences. Verbal communication between people and animals is limited, and that would make those relationships less powerful than human relations. But I can imagine other people having different kinds of relationships, for example, ones that are based on touching or even on quiet. So...
No, that's a good point, but I agree with only part of it, because there's a very kind of magical kinship that occurs that's nonverbal. I'd like to just bring up this amazing book that I hope some of our listeners will check it out, because it's quite extraordinary. But first I'm going to take our caller on line 1. Let's see.
Yes, we have a caller.
Yes. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Your name, please?
Jackie.
Hi, Jackie.
Hey.
Hi there.
So, yeah, hey. So, I enjoy your show, and I like that you bring up big range of topics. And what I've been feeling about this whole pet thing is that it's kind of gotten out of hand, and I've just seen so many people who, like, if they're in relationships and they treat their pets better than their partners. And it seems like it's a vicarious way for humans now to express their love, because it's so difficult expressing love between the humans. And it's easier with the animals. And I just wonder about it, like whether or not it's short-circuiting something that we should be working on with people. And I'm also concerned about the amount of food, that from all over the world, like there's people starving, and all these, and a lot of very good food gets put into animal food, and so there's that aspect of it that's a little troubling.
And one of the things, Jackie, that I have to say bothers me a little bit is, and I have family members and friends who do this, but this, buying clothes for the dog and dressing them up.
Halloween costumes.
Or people having weddings for their dog. This sort of over-the-top anthropomorphizing on the animals. And like you were saying, the expenditure, and I believe I was told a number sometime back that there are 2 registered dogs for every human in Marin County. That there are more dogs than people in Marin.
Yeah. And I'm noticing, like, when I go to the beach, it's like now one dog is not enough anymore. It's like they've got 2 and 3 dogs. And
yeah, I think that's a great point, because I see it again. I always come down to this. When there's a breakdown in community and human relationships have become so ticklish and challenging, I think that's part of the reason. I don't think it's an excuse for it. I think it's better if we can work out our relationships. But, you look around and there's so much stuff that's happening between people in terms of relationships. It's gotten so complicated, so unbelievably complicated.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, and I agree. We need to work on it. But in the meantime, people take refuge in the relationship with animals because they aren't judged, they're just loved.
So, Jackie, do you have pets, or have you had pets?
Yes, when I was 14, I lived up in Nevada City at a school up there, and there was a dog there that kind of, when I went up to visit the first time, we kind of just hit it off, and so the dog kind of really changed my life, because I don't think that I could have had the dog where I was. And so I ended up going and living at the school. So I had this dog for 2 years. And then when I left the school, I wasn't really able to keep him because I was just on the road. And so I found a really great home for him up in the Berkeley Hills with a painter. And he had a great life. But this dog and I, we would walk from the school like 10 miles down to the Yuba River, and we'd camp down there with this old miner dude. And it was just like, the dog was just a great companion. So, I mean, I really get that what animals can provide, you know. And then I had a cat. We had a cat when my wife died at 49 years old a couple of years ago. We were together for 22 years, and we had a cat, and the cat lived with us in our family unit with 3 kids, and that was really beautiful. And the cat died not long after she died. And then we had goats and chickens and rabbits, and we had like a homestead. But in terms of pets, I don't have any animals right now. But I think it's like indicative of how difficult it has become for humans to get along, because everyone's coming out of these broken, divorced homes. Nobody really knows how to we don't know how to coexist, and so I understand that pets are serving a purpose. And then, of course, if you look at it in reincarnational terms, maybe these privileged dogs, it's their last dog lifetime, and they're going to be reincarnated as a person the next time.
I'd rather go backwards than be my cousin Angela's dog. she dresses it up. She feeds it steak. Or Mary's dog. I'd like to come back in my next life as Mary's dog.
I fed my dog organic food his entire life. One night I was having an artichoke for dinner as my dog is eating grass-fed beef and organic vegetables. And I said, what is wrong with this picture? But he lived till he was 18, so that was
anyway,
good.
I really dig your show. And
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Good work, and take care of yourself.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for
Joel.
calling
calling.
in. Thank you
Yes.
for calling in. Well, we have an advisory. The Natural Weather Service has issued a high surf advisory, which is in effect from 3 a.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific Day time. Friday, northwest swell 14 to 16 feet is expected on Friday with a period of 16 to 18 seconds. A larger swell train arrives Sunday. Forerunners will arrive early Friday morning, then larger waves will arrive through the day on Friday. A second larger swell train is set to arrive Sunday. Strong rip currents may quickly exhaust swimmers. Large shore break can lead to injury, and large wave run-up can pull unsuspecting people into the cold and turbulent waters. Yeah.
The first storm of the winter.
Coming in. You know what? I just remembered it's Charlie Morgan's birthday today.
Good heavens.
So we should send out a big shout-out. Happy birthday, Charlie Morgan.
Yeah,
Speaking
happy
of
birthday,
big
Charlie.
waves and turbulence, Mr. Charlie, we hope you continue to shake things up and have a great time. So have a wonderful birthday today.
And this is KWMR Community Radio for West Marin, 90.5 Point Reyes Station, 89.9 in Bolinas, 92.3 in the San Geronimo Valley, and streaming live on kwmr.org. And I'd like to thank our other underwriters today, and that would be Palace Market. And the Palace Market in downtown Point Reyes Station, offering produce, cheeses, wines, a full deli and meat department, an assortment of natural health foods and supplements. And we'd also like to thank Ink Paper Plate, a printmaking studio, shop, and community arts workshop in Point Reyes Station, offering classes including letterpress, screen printing, monotype, relief block, etching, and book arts. Art supplies and locally made gifts are also available. For more information at inkpaperplate.com or at the studio just across the street from KWMR.
And yes, you are listening to Let's Talk Radio with co-hosts Robin Carpenter, Mary Frank, and I'm Paul Raffel. Please share your views on pets by calling 415-663-8492, or you can tweet us at Let's Talk on KWMR.
Yes, and today we're exploring the relationship between human beings and their pets, and why this is such a special bond, and why grieving for our animals is such a challenging situation. We'd like you to call in and hear what you have to say. Give us your, let's see. Yeah, that's it.
You're on the air?
Yep.
Turn down your radio. Give us your name. Watch that language. Don't be a Trump. Okay. So Jackie brought up the point about the expense. And here's a little thing that somebody called Charles sent by email. I don't know who that is. There's a couple of people, Brenda and Robert Vale, published a book called Time to Eat the Dog, A Real Guide to Sustainable Living, to look at the environmental impact and carbon paw prints of household pets. Among their research claims is that a medium-sized pet dog has twice the carbon footprint of an SUV driven 10,000 kilometers per year, based on the estimated energy impact of food production and waste generation. In addition to carbon footprints, they analyzed several popular types of pets with respect to their impacts on wildlife populations, spread of disease, and pollution. The title is a shock tactic. The science is debatable, but the authors suggest sharing pets. Sharing pets, why not?
Especially a dog.
I guess that's what Sally and I are doing, we're sharing pets. Or raising edible pets, thank you, such as chickens, rabbits, or pigs, as a way of reducing or offsetting environmental impacts. They made a proposal to Wellington City Council, I guess in New Zealand, to ban traditional pets in favor of edible pets, but it was deemed unacceptable.
But, you know, it's very interesting because I had done an article a while back called Return of the Backyard Chicken, and talking about how chickens were great companions for, you know, the farm wives, and that there was a great bond between women and their chickens.
Okay, we have a caller. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please?
Yeah, Marcel.
Hi, Marcel.
Hi, Marcel.
Hold on, I want to turn down my radio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Turning down the radio.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah, this is an excellent program. I wrote my master's thesis in pet therapy
Wow.
at Cal Poly. And I've had dogs and cats. Right now I have 2 cats. Pets, I call them companion animals. I don't like to call them pets. They're just wonderful creatures, and you've had some fabulous comments, and you people really know a lot about pets. You know, I studied the history of pets. There were kings who had lions for pets, for instance. Any animal conceivable, people had as for pets. But, pets do a lot for us. I mean, they do provide unconditional love. And yes, they have a sixth sense, and it was very interesting listening to that gentleman who called in about the lady with this fellow. Was it one of you on the program? I don't remember, but peeing, the cat peeing in the shoe, or the dog peeing in the shoe.
The cat.
What's that?
It was the cat because it smelled really bad.
It was the cat. But anyway, I tell a lot about people when they come and see when I had dogs or cats, and especially if my cats or dogs, they're aloft and they go away. I say I want to watch out for this person, and usually I'm right. I guess I have a prejudice that people don't like pets. I don't call them pets. People don't like cats, dogs. There's something strange about them, if that's the word. I volunteer at the Humane Society also. And I remember one time when I was living in San Luis Obispo, going to Cal Poly, I couldn't have a dog, and I had dogs before, and I really wanted a dog. And I went to the Humane Society, and I took out a couple of dogs, several afternoons. So I just took them out. They were in the cages, and took them out to the park, to the lake, and then I wrote an article in the Cal Poly paper saying, well, if you're missing a dog, you can't have it in your place. Just maybe you can take one at the Humane Society. And then I called the Humane Society the following week. My article was in, and they said, "Oh, we can't do that anymore. We had so many people calling that wanting to take our dogs for the afternoon." And our insurance wouldn't allow it. So I put my foot in my mouth for doing that. But anyway, companion animals are great. I'm 82 years young, and I have 2 cats. One's is 19 years old now. He's been with me for 18 years, and he's a rescue cat, and he just knows how I feel, from not feeling well. Take a nap, he'll cuddle right up to me, and of course every night he just sleeps right next to me, right next to the pillow. He just gets up in the bed, and then I have another beautiful tortoiseshell, and she's about 3 years old, and they bonded together, and it's just wonderful. And somebody mentioned that when you come home, and if you don't have a companion animal, the house seems empty, and this is what I found. And so I've just had to have companion animals. A house, home is not a home without a cat or whatever. And that's the way I feel. But they're wonderful creatures. They're wonderful, and of course, I feed my cats very well. They get liver on Sundays, or liver. They get fresh meat, and they get the best canned food, and they get eggs. And my tuxedo 19-year-old cat. He's doing quite well at the age, but I feed him well, and that has a lot to do with it.
It does.
Well, thank you for your work that you're doing. That's wonderful.
Thanks, Marcel.
And thanks for calling in and sharing your views. Thank you.
You say you were going to talk about pets a few weeks ago, and I said I got to call in.
Yeah.
Yay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we want to repeat the advisory that the National Weather Service has put out. It's a high surf advisory, which is in effect from 3 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Friday. Northwest swell 14 to 16 feet is expected on Friday, with a period of 16 to 18 seconds. A larger swell train arrives on Sunday. Forerunners will arrive early Friday morning, then larger waves will arrive through the day on Friday. A second larger swell train is set to arrive on Sunday. Strong rip currents may quickly exhaust swimmers' large shore break, can lead to injury, and large wave run-up can pull unsuspecting people into the cold and turbulent waters. And I wanted to finish what I was talking about with this precious book. Before our caller called in. It's called Kinship with All Life. It's a little tiny thin book by J. Allen Boone, Boone, and it shows how animals communicate with each other and with people who understand them, speaking the universal language of love. It's a true story. This guy was living in L.A. He was asked to babysit a fairly famous dog actor, Strongheart, and it talks about his growing relationship with this dog. He just saw it as, a dog, and as the days went by, he said, wait a minute, this guy is communicating with me psychically, spiritually, on many, many levels. But the astounding thing is, as he goes through this process and opens up to this kind of nonverbal vibe communication, there was a fly. This is a true story. There was a fly that he tried to get rid of, and he didn't want to kill it, he wanted to capture it, and the fly kept coming back. He actually developed a relationship with this fly. You have to read the book. And he could call the fly, and the fly would come into the room. It was yes, you have to read this book. It is absolutely precious and true. It's a true story.
The Call of the Fly.
Yes.
See, I should have had that ability, and I could have fed them to my Chinese water dragon.
Yes.
So there's a great little article in Alternet, which actually came out this week. So it's fabulous. Just perfect timing. Why we're okay with eating pigs but not dogs. This is one of my little things. I mean, I often just throw something in like, why don't you eat your dog? Right? Or eat your pet pig. Pigs are smarter than dogs, apparently, and even cows are intelligent animals who have excellent long-term memories, develop friendships, hold grudges, and even mourn the deaths of loved ones. So why do we draw an arbitrary moral line in the sand? Why do we love some animals yet eat others? They did a study at University of Edinburgh asking people about their dietary habits using the intelligence of the animals they eat as a deciding factor. They said, what if you went to another planet, humans went to another planet, and there were a species there that you didn't know about, but it was as intelligent. You know, the idea is it's as intelligent as a pig. Would you eat it? And 93.5% of people said no. Because it's an intelligent species.
You know, it's interesting because my dad and I were talking about this, that, we co-evolved. The cat, is basically thought the reason that we co-evolved with the cat was once we became doing agriculture and storing grain and things like that, the cats worked in concert to help us keep our grain stores and food stores safe from rats and mice. Dogs co-evolved with us to help us hunt and take down. Without dogs, we probably would not have become the good hunters that we became, and that brain development that occurred by, eating meat and that sort of thing. So if you think about it, cats and dogs co-evolved with us. So by keeping them well fed and taking care of them and keeping them alive, they helped keep us fed.
Yeah, and safe. So, dogs are alarm clock. Alarm warning.
Right.
So
dogs.
If
so
you think,
geese.
And if you think of in those terms, it benefited humans to keep them alive, as opposed to chickens, which can be really funny, charming companions. Chickens are very interesting, believe it or not. Yeah. And then they're laying eggs, and then when they can't lay eggs anymore, then you eat them. But the thing with pigs has always been a little bit of a tough one for me because I love pork. But pigs are so smart and so funny
and so cute.
And so cute. Even when they're big, they can be cute. I mean, they're just... I remember a friend of mine telling me about when he had to take his pig to market or to have it slaughtered, basically. That the pig was so attached to him, all he had to do was, pat in the bed of the truck, and the pig just hops right in, because he's used to going on rides and stuff, and that was... that realization's kind of like, but
I fell in love with the pet pig when I was in Bora Bora. Oh yes, many years ago, in the 70s, and we were there staying with a local chieftain in his house. He was renting us his room, and he had a pig. He had an island out on the reef where he raised pigs for eating, and there was a runt over the litter, and he brought the runt back and brought it to his house and kept it, didn't eat it, he just had it running around the house. So every morning you'd hear this coming down the corridor, down the hallway. He'd come into our bedroom and go, so we knew it was time to get up, have breakfast.
Well, when I was very little, I was around 6 years old, I was living in a pretty rural area, and the house across the way, which was the only house for many miles in either direction, I used to play with their daughter, and they had a pet chicken, Biddy. Talk about chickens, Robin. This chicken put up with, you wouldn't believe, we would dress her up in doll clothes and drive her around in a little buggy, and we loved the feathers. I think she had 3 feathers by the time she died. We loved the feathers. She would just sit there and take it, and she was quite amazing. So chickens can be amazing too.
It's interesting. Lori and Tor here, Lori Montserrat and Tor Taylor, they have chickens, and she started Chicken Lovers Facebook page. So for any of you who love chickens, there is a little group of us on Facebook of chicken lovers. If you want to join us, we have chicken liver. I do like chicken liver too. I mean, it's an interesting thing being a carnivore or an omnivore, as I am. That relation with animals, and I also. In our lifetimes, I think for all of us, the transition between how we treated our animal companions, as Marcel prefers them called, it used to be much more, the dog sleeps outside in the doghouse. You didn't, when I was growing up, you didn't let cats or dogs in you didn't let animals in the house. But we were also still very connected to, my grandparents hadn't been off the farm that long. And so there was a more pragmatic relationship. And also, even now, the different kinds of dogs, like hunting dogs, if you had good hunting dogs, they did not live in the house with you. You didn't want them to have that. They were working dogs, and you worked the dogs. And so therefore you had to keep a boundary with them that wasn't all lovey-dovey. And the same thing out here when we have the guard dogs for the at the Baranaga Ranch, for the sheep and other places, the guard dogs are not there to be friendly or to even. They don't want them to bond with other humans. They want them to bond to the animals they're protecting.
The sheep,
Yeah.
Here we have a call. But anyways, yes, we have about, 10 minutes left here. So give us a call, 415-663-8492 or 8317.
Okay, caller, you're on the air. Your name, please.
Janet.
Hi, Janet.
Hi, Janet.
Hi, Janet.
Hi, Robin.
We miss you.
You miss me. I miss you too.
You're such a good dog mommy.
Oh, yes, I am. It's a little bit neurotic, but it's part of who I am, and I embrace it.
Good.
And your husband, Jay, too. I mean, you guys are good dog parents. I mean, I've been around some dogs that are no longer with you, and new dogs, and you guys are really great. You usually have 3.
We have a revolving trio. But, and it's been almost, it's been almost 20 years. And when we started out, I had 2 miniature schnauzers, and Jay had never seen or known a miniature schnauzer, and it was quite an adjustment. And then we got a golden retriever, Mr. Peabody.
You got a big manly dog for Jay.
Yes, and and a friend had said, because I've always had little dogs, miniature schnauzers, I had one from the time I was 5 until I was 21.
Wow.
So that breed has an imprint on my soul, for better or worse. And then we got Mr. Peabody, and there's been a revolving trio. And then about 3 years ago, we lost 2 dogs, one very unexpectedly within 6 months. And we were left with one schnauzer who turned a little bit maniacal. He was happy and horrified to be the only dog.
Aww.
And so now we adopted a senior golden retriever, Harley. He was actually on death row in a Los Angeles shelter for being aggressive, but he was really just abused. He'd been very, very loved by someone and then not. And we've had him now 3 years, and Riley, the irascible schnauzer, and he are the best of friends. And us 4 seniors roam the streets of San Diego together.
And I have to say, I've met Harley, and Harley is the sweetest, mellowest. I can't even imagine him being snippy or...
No, he was terrified, and when he's afraid, he barks, and he is afraid of loud noises. We live relatively close to Camp Pendleton, so when they're doing their whatever they're doing, blowing things up, he gets a little neurotic. When we first got here, this is almost embarrassing talking about a neurotic dog mom. The first week we were here, all of a sudden Harley started acting really weird, and he's almost 100 pounds, and he tried to jump on my lap. And I had no idea what was happening, and Jay was on the air at his radio station, so I just looked up a vet, and there was one close by, and I went down. I said, he's having a panic attack. And I said, well, I think we both need Xanax then.
Now, if we could only get the vets to give us some, too.
I know. I tell you, every once in a while I think, hey, who needs some more, you or me? But they're just... The thing that's so amazing to me, and I know, Robin, you just recently lost your kitty, and that was so sad and such a harsh decision to have to make. And as horrible as it is when we lose an animal, I don't know, something about they leave a piece of our heart still open for the next. Mm-hmm. I think it's their greatest gift.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just, and having those lives, and just thinking like how Andy and our dynamic as a couple would be so different if we didn't have our pets.
Exactly.
And like for you and Jay too, it's like you guys are a family of 4. It's part of the. I think it enriches relationships to have pets that you have together.
Mm-hmm. More love is more love.
What's really funny, though, for me to observe is how different they are. When we first moved here, Jay was on for 12 hours a day, so I was the primary caretaker, and now he is, and oh my gosh, they work him even better than they've ever worked me.
They're good at that, I think.
It's unbelievable.
Well, gosh, Janet, thanks so much for calling in, and I hope I get to see you again soon.
Me too. Give Andy a hug and have a great time at KWMR.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, Janet.
That's Janet Galea. She used to work here years ago. Now she lives in Southern California.
Good heavens.
So,
It's San Diego.
a long ways away. So I think, it's interesting, like with working dogs, seeing the dynamics like on a farm or a ranch, with the animals, and just thinking in terms of Nicolette Hahn Nyman, when she's a vegetarian, and when she and Bill first got together, and he's a rancher, there was one cow that she fell in love with called Girlfriend that Bill let her keep as a pet.
Yeah.
And,
That is so precious.
now just born a couple of weeks ago was Girlfriend's great granddaughter, who has a pretty brindle face and looks a lot like Girlfriend. But that I think you do in a farming ranching situation. There are sometimes those situations like it's the runt or it's a particular animal that you just fell in love with, and and having that, it's really interesting. I've asked a lot of ranchers that I've interviewed over the years about what it is like. Like Bill Nyman always goes with his animals to slaughter, and if he doesn't go, the person that also works the animals with him goes, so that the animal, one of them is literally there with them when they do the bolt to the head, which is instantly kills the cow. So that he feels like that's part of the sacred duty of raising animals, is that you have this way that you stay with them and care for them all the way through the process. If you're going to eat meat, that the people that you should be eating meat that's had a happy life and that have been treated well, and that as Bill says, they only have one bad moment, and it shouldn't last more than 1 second, and that's it. But so there is that thing about what we seem to think is okay to eat and not eat. And I mean, there are other cultures where they do eat dog.
Yeah.
Well, so Sally's dog is a rescue dog from Taiwan.
Oh, wow.
Where she was
almost dinner.
Yeah, she was. Lovely dog, a little neurotic, but who wouldn't be if they were raised for dinner?
Always worried, like the Paul and Sally look hungry. Hurry, eat something else.
Yeah, but again, a cultural thing. Dogs are work animals. Dogs are, sometimes raised as meat, and why not? I mean, on some of the Pacific Islands, there are always dogs around. What are you going to do? If you want meat, you're going to have one of the dogs. It's kind of how it is.
To kind of revisit Jackie's point.
And then there's horses.
Oh, and
Can we talk about eating horses,
And
please?
we're eating horses whether we know it or not, apparently.
Well, I'll never forget my grandmother, my adopted grandmother. It was a long story, but long story short, I had been sort of terrorizing my little sisters who did not realize that chicken was an animal of chicken and steak was from a cow. And so my youngest sister, Ashley, at the time, stopped eating meat because I had been going like, you do know that is a chicken, like a chicken. And she was like, no.
Yeah,
So Ashley, who was already tiny to begin with, was losing weight and refusing. She was afraid to eat anything because she was afraid it was going to be an animal and she was being lied to. So my dad told her this crazy story that the spots on cows, that you unscrewed them and reached in and took the steaks out and they didn't have to kill the cows. And that, all this. So anyway, my grandmother was not happy about this. So she takes me down to the butcher down in this old section of Mobile, Alabama. And she says, so you're so brave about you'll eat squirrel and you'll eat chicken and you'll just eat anything, won't you? And I said, yes, ma'am, because I was sort of proud of like how I was so tough. I could just eat anything and I wasn't going to cry about eating the cow. So she said, great, because tonight I'm making horse meat stew. And the butchers still back then sold horse meat.
Sure.
And I remember my stomach just flipping over as the butcher gets the big silver paddle and puts
why
the
was
horse
that,
meat
though?
out.
I mean, were you a horsey gal?
No, I wasn't. But there was something in my mind that was the line for me. And I think she knew it. And then she said, now we're going to have the horse meat for dinner. And you're not going to tell anybody what it is. because I don't want you scaring anybody, but you're going to eat it, right? Because you're so brave and you'll eat anything, right? And I was like, yes, you know. And I would never forget eating that and then going to the bathroom and being very ill afterwards. And, you know, she wanted me to experience the horror that, you know, it wasn't funny and I wasn't so and I'll never forget that horse meat stew on her bone china plates, which she then described how the bones were ground up to make the china. She did a number on me.
She got you.
And I wrote a little story about it called Carnivore Karma. Yeah. And it was like, she got me good on that. So that's the only time I knowingly ate horse meat.
I don't get the taboo about horses. I really don't, because it's delicious.
I've had horse meat when I was in college.
Sure.
It was really cheap. It was the cheapest meat you could buy. We used to eat it all the time.
I would think, especially when a horse is ready to retire, why wouldn't we eat it? I mean, that's how I feel now.
You feed it to your dogs instead, basically. That's what's happening, right?
Although apparently in some restaurants, too, unmarked.
Off to the knacker's yard, as they used to call it. Take the horse down the knacker's yard.
Ah. Well,
they boil it down into glue as well, yes.
Look at the time.
Remember that?
I wish to thank all of our listeners and our callers today for their participation, and I hope you'll tune in every Thursday at 11 because your voice really does matter.
Yes, it does. And KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members.